So today I'm answering your question, how do I rewire my anxious brain? Thanks to Paul for sending this question in. We do love your questions, so please keep them coming. And it's a great question. So how exactly do we rewire an anxious brain or an anxious mind? And the answer is neuroplasticity. So let me explain what that is, how you can use it yourself, and I'll give you some free resources at the end to help you get started. So let's imagine, first of all, what causes anxiety. Imagine we're walking down a road and we get attacked. Maybe a big dog jumps out at us. And when we do that, the brain responds by pushing us into fight or flight by sending electricity along neural pathways and firing them into the amygdala. That's perfectly normal. It's a protective system, and that's meant to happen. But what can happen for some people is if they constantly relive that situation or they live in a constant state of stress, that anxiety becomes a loop, becomes a mental pattern that keeps on firing when there's no reason for it to do so. And that's when they usually pick up the phone and give us a call and they start to work on their anxiety. Now, to use this in therapy, the answer is we need to learn a few little techniques. And the one that we really like is scan and act. So what we do is we tell people that when you wake up in the morning, we want you not to jump out of bed full of energy as you normally do, but just to lie there for 2 or 3 minutes and just to question what it is you're feeling. We want you to scan your system, that's the mind and the body, and we ask you just to find something that's unwanted. So this could be a feeling of anxiety, quite often it's a feeling in the stomach. It might be an intrusive thought, it might be worry, it might be physical pain. And when we find it, we then want to question it to death. We want to almost step out of ourselves and look back in and get really interested. So we ask questions like, if it was on a scale of 1 to 10, how strong would it be? Whereabouts do we feel this? If it had a color, what color would it be? If it had a shape, what shape would it be? And anything else you can think about. You could look at your posture, your breathing, and your thoughts. And we do that just for 2 minutes because that helps to take the fear away. And then once we've done that, we tell people to bring a great big stop sign up in their mind. And if they want to, they can shout out as loud as they like, stop, or they can do that in the brain as well. And then once we do that, we go into a relaxation routine of we ask people to put their hands on the belly, start to breathe in through the nose, and just become aware of that breathing in and out. And by doing that, we regulate the CO2 and the oxygen, and it helps to calm us down really nicely. And then the next step is we ask them to count how many seconds they're breathing in and how many they're breathing out. Because typically when we're anxious, we breathe in for 3 or 4 and out for 1 or 2. And we need to change it round to stimulate the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system so that we breathe in for 4 and out for maybe 7 or 8. And that calms us right down. And then the next step is we then ask people to think about a time when they were happy. And this might take a bit of work, and this is where the therapist really comes in because we help you to revive those situations. So this could be a nice holiday, it could be a Christmas, for some people it's a wedding, or it could just be a day out with the kids. And the idea is by practicing this exercise, we assess what's going on. We then interrupt it. We then relax down and then push ourselves into a lovely state. And we ask people to do this several times a day by putting a little dinger on the phone. So you can do this at work and while you're driving. We just keep our eyes open when we have to. And they go through this little routine. And what it does is it builds massive awareness of what's going on. But then we show you how to move into a more relaxed, happy, in control state. And by doing this repeatedly, the brain rewires and that new state becomes default. And the benefit of it is we're going from a nasty situation like anxiety, but then we ask the client what they'd like instead. And a lot of people say they want to be confident. They want to be good at what they do, a good communicator. So we're taking this anxiety problem and turning it into a massive benefit. And this is where we see people do so much better with their work, their jobs, their businesses, their relationships, and they feel much happier in life. So it becomes a benefit. But this all comes back to neuroplasticity and that it allows us to change that pattern that's in the brain and move it into a new one. And by using what I've just told you, it'll take some time, but you'll be able to rewire that brain and feel an awful lot better quite quickly. However, the faster option is when you work with a therapist, we normally eliminate that anxiety and other problems in 4 to 6 weeks. It's much faster and it's much easier. So to help you get started, we've got some free resources below. We have a free anxiety relief pack where if you get that, you can download the tools with a hypnosis track and you can start to put this into practice. And it is important to spend 20 to 30 minutes a day working on your anxiety or other issues if you want things to change and get better fast. The other alternative is you can work with one of our team. And before you can do that, we need to do an assessment. And again, there's a link below, which means you can then have 20 to 30 minutes on the phone with one of the team. We'll be really honest and tell you if we think we can help you to resolve your anxiety for good, and we can explain the process. But that's the basics. That's neuroplasticity. It's quite simple, although it sounds very complicated. And when you get in and start working on it, it works really nicely. Thank you so much for watching.